you're probably gonna notice that something is missing from the story if you've been keeping up with the series. The part where Olga Dmitrievna comes in and looks for them, and then subsequently everything that happened afterwards. I recorded it, but there was something messed up with the frame rate. I couldn't get it to match with my audio, so it had to be cut out. Fortunately, I did manage to save a lot of it, so not too much is missing. If you're watching this, chances are you know exactly what happens, but in case you forgot or are watching the series for the first time, basically Semyon is Semyon again, and he ends up falling asleep with Uliana in the closet, the storage room, and I think that's where the story picks up if I'm not mistaken. But anyway, here's the rest of Uliana's route. There are probably worse things in life than falling asleep while being cuddled by a little girl. Now the door opens, and armed men leap toward us. I can't make out what they're screaming, but their intentions are clearly far from good. Nah, I'm not scared at all. Rather, I'm embarrassed, or even ashamed. When I opened my eyes, it took me some time to realize where exactly I was. It was dark in here. Only a dim light was gleaming under the door. Why do they make storage rooms without windows? Though obviously that's the way it should be. But why on earth would anyone bring a TV set and a VCR in here then? I cursed the architects of this building in my mind and shook Uliana by her shoulders. Come on, get up now. She stretched. As we were lying together, I could see her sleepy eyes even in the dark. What? Let me sleep. Uliana tried to turn away, but I firmly grabbed her shoulder with my hand. I don't know what time it is, but regardless, it would be smart for us to get out of here. Not now. Later, she whispered, half asleep. I said wake up. Come on. I jumped up and easily pulled her to her feet. Moaned Uliana with frustration in her voice. I started to look for the light switch, but then suddenly heard footsteps outside the door. My heart sank. Why so early? You have a truckload of work to do. No time to waste. You know that we have to do it all before the departure? Alright, fine. It looks like our two amped up cybernetics are paying a visit to the clubhouse before the break of dawn today. Shush! I whispered to Uliana. And what's the... She didn't manage to finish her sentence as I silenced her with my hand. Well, I understand all that, but we might at least have waited until after breakfast. Oh? Do you have something else to do? Not really. I heard some hesitation in Electronic's voice. Sure you don't want to head off to the library bright and early again? Hadn't the slightest intention, he replied fretfully. Oh yeah, sure, if you say so. Soon the work kicked off behind the door. I could hear hammer strikes, machines rattling, and Electronics buzzing. Electronic and Shirik were discussing their own matters, so I wasn't paying much attention. I was more interested in knowing when they'll finally leave the building. Rather soon, breakfast time is coming. But if we take Shirik's passion into consideration... Let go of me! Uliana finally wrestled her way out but didn't raise her voice after all. Why can't we just leave? She asked under her breath. What do you think? It's all fine? Well, what's the problem? Well, we've spent the whole night here together. And it's obvious what they'd assume, considering I'd taken the precaution of closing the door. So? What do you mean, so? I tiredly sighed. Just trust me. I know that it doesn't matter to you, but it does to me. Okay, fine. We'll keep hiding here, agreed Uliana resentfully. I was prepared to wait for a long time if necessary, but barely a couple of minutes later the front door opened and somebody came in. Good morning, guys. Good morning. Morning? It was Slavia. Just wanted to ask if you happen to have any sticky tape. Ooh. Okay, so what's happening is that I keep getting shirk and electronic mixed up in my mind. So I have to stop and try to remember who is who so I don't do the wrong voice for them. We do. Somewhere. Replied Shirk thoughtfully. Take a look in the back room. Hey, that's where we are. These words gave me goosebumps and I grabbed the door handle in a stranglehold. Slavia approached the door from the opposite side and tried to pull it open, but I was straining against the door with all my strength. It's locked. It can't be. We never locked that room. Let me try. Shirk yanked the door handle, but nothing happened, although it took a lot of effort for me to hold it steady. It's stuck. Give me a hand here. If y'all don't quit. In a few moments, they were trying to open the door together with electronic. I grasped the handle as if my whole life was depending on it. Regardless, this was a short struggle. My hands quickly gave out, and I let go. The door slammed open and the bright sunlight blinded me, so I couldn't see the startled faces of Shirk, Electronic, and Slavia for the first few seconds. Hi guys. Good morning. Morning. Uliana was standing behind me so that I couldn't see her, but I could feel the embarrassment in her voice. And what are you doing here? Asked Shirk almost as if he wasn't surprised. Well, to tell you the truth, we were watching a movie. Uliana brought a tape and you have a VCR here. Shirk distrustfully stared into the depths of the back room. I gave Uliana a nudge in the side until she got the message and displayed the tape. And what's that movie? A barely visible grin crossed Electronic's face. Just a regular film, a thriller, the latest thriller. Then I imagined what he and others were thinking right now and I was overwhelmed with rage. Okay, I know this looks bad, but if that's what y'all are thinking, come on now. If you think nothing like that. It's all her fault. I pointed my finger at Uliana. She looked at me strictly and turned. Nobody's accusing you of anything, said Slavia without looking at me. At least there's one sensible person among all present here. Yet, she added under her breath. What? Everything was exactly as he told you. Uliana joined the conversation. You were just watching a film and then felt sleepy. It was so late. We didn't think anything. Just a stupid situation. Come on, enough. Electronic tried to put it off with a jest. I think Olga Dmitrievna will be the judge here, Slavia said in a cool voice. Hey, wait! Why take this to the camp leader? Who else? But you see, we're telling the truth. I am not the one to judge. Damn it! Then who? You have seen everything with your own eyes. It's for the camp leader to decide. Slavia said quietly and turned to go. Just wait. I appeared before the door in a single bound and blocked her way. Listen, this is none of my business. Slavia was trying to avoid my gaze. It seems like she's also uncomfortable about this situation. I am just obligated to... Whom are you obligated to? Why do you need to do this? Because... She was unable to find the words to finish. So you don't have to go anywhere. You don't have to tell anyone anything. No? She said nervously, but then raised her head and gave me an intense gaze. Sorry, Semyon. Just leave her. Let her go. I turned my head to Uliana. This fraction of a second was enough for Slavia to slip out of the clubhouse. Wait! Just wait! I yelled at her as she ran, but it had no effect. Pursuing Slavia in a futile attempt to prevent her from going to the camp leader made no sense. If she intends to, I can't exactly tie her up. She can't prove anything anyway. Uliana chuckled. Who cares whether she can prove anything or not? Don't you understand your position in all of this? In any situation you're involved in, your guilt is a foregone conclusion. Moreover, in a case like this, well, we are responsible together then. She smirked trickily. Exactly. I left the building and sat on the stairs. Well, we will be on your side just in case. Right, Shurik? I think so. I don't clearly understand what happened here, but presumably nothing that worrying. Okay, we are going for breakfast. Soon we lost sight of them. Let's go and eat as well, Uliana said cheerfully. Food is all you think about. Why bother crying? What will it change? She was right about that, at least. We just have to wait for the camp leader's decision. Let's just go. We headed to the canteen. All the camp had gathered for breakfast, except Olga Dmitrievna and Slavia. It might be for the best, guess. What are you thinking about? Uliana asked me cheerfully when we took our food and sat. The same thing. Come on, stop worrying about nothing. Maybe it's nothing for you. Well, really, what was particularly bad about that? Every situation can be interpreted from different angles. And especially if you have a reason. Come on. What's the worst that can happen? You know, our camp leader, she's a bit eccentric. Well, maybe so, but we didn't do anything like that. Anything at all. I hope she believes that too. My relationship with Uliana had improved dramatically lately. At first I only saw her as a naughty, ill-mannered child, but now I started to see the good sides of her character. Although, there weren't too many. And now, just when everything was starting to work out, a hard conversation with the camp leader loomed ahead. Maybe I just dreamt everything that happened, and Slavia's reaction this morning was just caused by surprise. Oh, hello, ma'am. How you doing? Enjoying your meal? Olga Dmitrievna was hanging over me. She looked at me menacingly. Yes? Do you mind explaining your behavior? Mind explaining what? Well, for example, how you happened to be in the Cybernetics Club utility room? Where did you get the key? What were you even doing there? I recall the circumstances in which I obtained this cursed key. I should speak to Electronic about that. If Slavia told you our version, you were watching a film, Uliana claimed seriously. The whole night? The camp leader asked sarcastically. Then I just fell asleep. Semyon stayed with me. And so, there was no chance for you to go to your cabins? Not even a tiny one. What are you going to say? Well, it sounds really stupid, but she's right. You expect me to believe that? Well, it's the truth. I can't really accuse you of anything. The camp leader started slowly. But on the other hand, this entire situation is beyond normal. Pioneers must not behave this way. And there are too many inconsistencies in your story. We get it, I agreed, fatalistically. I will do the following. Uliana, you are on detention. You will be confined to your cabin, and I will decide what to do with you later. I looked at Uliana attentively. Contrary to my expectations, she didn't look upset. Clearly, I do not think this is your fault, but to be fair, great, you know where to find me in case you need me. She stood up instantly and headed to the exit. Olga Dmitrievna didn't try to stop her. There's always too much trouble with her. She got you into all of this. I don't really get what she got me into. And you seem to be too harsh on her. Show me another pioneer like her. The camp leader laughed. When she receives detentions for misbehaving, that's another story. But here... Actually, I don't really understand what was indeed going on. But my duty is to look after your moral character. And this situation is suspicious. Highly suspicious. And how long are you going to keep her imprisoned? I don't know. Olga Dmitrievna pondered for some time. Today is the departure. But in these circumstances... What departure? I jumped at the word. The term is ending today. This is the last day. What? It was the only response I could squeeze out. The last day. Meaning, I'll finally be able to leave this damn camp. Maybe it's time for my suffering to end. And I'll get back to my ordinary reality. But why so suddenly? Sudden for who? I talked about it in the lineup. She has a point. At the lineups I was usually sleeping or looking around and didn't really listen to the announcements. And at what time? At about 5 o'clock. Don't forget to get ready. I hardly have anything to pack. She stood up, took a tray, and was going to leave. So what's going to happen to Uliana? I don't know yet. I told you. She will probably leave later. How's that? Not with everyone? Well, yes. Is that normal? I was truly surprised. What's wrong with it? I don't know about wrong, but it's quite strange for sure. Well, I still have work to do. I dug aimlessly at my porridge, which had gone cold long ago. departure, the possibility of getting out of here. But on the other hand, Uliana. I myself felt guilty before her. In the end, she was penalized while I, at the same time, wasn't. That's not fair. No, it's not like I wanted to share her misery, but I don't think that it's fair that she sits there locked up. Well, there is still some time before leaving. It should be quite enough to make the situation clear. First, I decided to talk with Slavia. I hope she has calmed down. I'd gotten used to finding Slavia at the square, so I went there without any doubts. Why exactly there? Because in this camp I predominantly met her there. But there wasn't a single soul near Genda's haven. I stood there for a while, looking at the monument, then headed to the library. It makes sense that Xenia could know where her neighbor is right now. After knocking at the door, recalling my previous experience, this was not a useless mannerism. I went in. Xenia distracted herself from her book and looked closely at me. What do you want? What's wrong? Why do you react like that? I can't even come in? What? You came here for no reason? I doubt you wanted to read something. Well, no. The classics of Marxist-Leninism weren't my favorite literature. I wanted to know where Slavia is. What do you want to know? She said that as if she was sure that the conversation is over, and thus she proceeded with her reading. Well, since I'm asking, clearly I need to know. Should be on the pier. Xenia answered indifferently. Thanks. Learning what I wanted to know, I hurried out of this stronghold of malice. Yes, Xenia has a tough spirit. At least, I have issues understanding her. On the pier, some pioneers were pulling boats into docks, while others were running around with oars or ropes. After looking closely, I noticed Slavia, who sat quite far away near the water. Cleaning up? I asked the most neutral question that came to my mind. Yep. She answered without turning. Listen, I want to talk about Uliana. Well, yeah. Honestly speaking, I had no idea what to talk about. Slavia found us in the storage room, got it wrong, and told everything to the camp leader. Now it's not her concern anymore, if you think about it. On the other hand, it would be a waste of time to talk to Olga Dmitrievna now. Maybe I just subconsciously wanted to understand Slavia's reasoning, to be able to absolve her somehow. So what did you want to say? Well, Uliana got punished. Maybe she won't even leave with us. No wonder. I just wanted to explain to you that nothing special happened there. Frankly speaking, I don't know. I just had to report everything. So you did? Did it leave anyone better off? I mumbled to myself. Of course, I'm not sure that it was right, she said confusedly. Well, what's done is done. Do you think it's possible to get Uliana freed from house arrest? You're worrying about her so much. Slavia finally looked at me and smiled. Not about her, about justice. While I was a bit confused, I found the right answer. Well, you know our camp leader. I do, that's for sure. Just wait, she'll calm down eventually. Yes, I guess that was the best decision. Yes, You're right. I stood near her in silence for some time. Slavia didn't seem eager to keep on talking. Still, there was some sense of incompleteness, but faced with the idea of this uncomfortable situation lasting for several hours, I decided not to be a burden. Okay, I'll go then. See you. She smiled. In the middle of the square, I stopped to think. There's still a lot of time till the departure and I have nothing to do. Just yesterday, when it seemed like I was stuck here forever and had lots of time, even though there was actually very little, I felt the need to think and act faster. But now that I've only got 5 hours left till I leave this camp forever, I have not the slightest idea on how to spend them. I decided to visit Uliana. After all, even if she isn't allowed to leave her cabin, that doesn't mean I cannot pay her a visit. I knocked gently. "You're not welcome here," an angry voice sounded from behind the door. I pulled on the handle and entered. "Hail, prisoner." "Oh, it's you," Uliana said disappointedly. "And what? Am I the only one who wasn't welcome here?" I tried to smile. "Why did you come?" "Well, I thought that you'd be bored here all alone." "I'm fine." "Where is Elisa?" "As you can see, not here." "Come on, why are you so angry? In the morning you were in a much better mood." "Angry? Me?" "Not me, that's for sure." "You have nothing else to do, so you came here, right?" "Yeah, my bad." I sighed theatrically and hung my head. "Well, sit down then." I sat on the opposite bed. "So, tell me something." "Let's come up with a way to prove to Olga Dmitrievna that we did nothing wrong." "I did nothing wrong," Uliana corrected me. You seem to have nothing to do with it." "Okay, let it be." "But why?" A tricky question. It feels like we've swapped our roles. I was suggesting a stupid plan while she was a voice of reason. "Well, because we did nothing wrong." "What's the matter with you anyway?" "I'll just stay grounded for a couple of hours and that's it. We have to depart soon anyway." She flopped down the bed and stared at the ceiling. "Well, sure, but..." I tried hard to cheer her up, but it looks like I haven't succeeded so far. "Want to do something maybe?" "It's lunchtime already." I took a glance at my watch. "Yeah, right." "Here's a job for you. Since I mustn't go out, go and bring me something to eat." "Sir, yes sir." I saluted her and hurried out of the cabin. Recently, I started to think that finally something has clicked in Uliana's mind. Maybe the punishment has had an effect on her, or possibly it was something else. My attitude towards her has changed. Her wrongdoings used to make me feel nothing but irritation, but now, well, there was also an understanding and a sort of sympathy. After all, I used to be a child too. Can you guys excuse me for 1 second? I'm pretty sure my cats just broke something. Perhaps if one explained to her what is right and what is not, she might be able to avoid many mistakes. In the canteen, I had an argument with the cook who refused to give me a double serving. However, everyone in the camp already knew about Uliana being grounded, so eventually my powers of persuasion won out over dietary standards. Soon I was sitting at Uliana's cabin and tucking away meatballs with potatoes. Just like a last meal.
What are you talking about?
Well, every death row prisoner has a right to make a last wish. Thus, my last wish is a lunch like this. To my surprise, the food was really delicious. What would your wish be?
Well, to not be executed, of course.
She laughed. You can't.
Why? You can wish for anything.
Well, you can, but within certain limits.
That means it's not anything.
Well, okay then, it's not anything.
And that's not interesting.
Well, I believe being a death row prisoner is hardly meant to be interesting in the first place.
I grinned through my teeth. I wouldn't know. I never went through that experience.
But if you think about it, it's almost my situation. This camp is my cell. For several more hours I'll stay under arrest, and then I'll face uncertainty, just like I would after death. The only difference is that I had more options. If I wanted to attend lineup, then I'd do so. If not, then I didn't. What are you going to do next?
What do you mean?
Well, after the camp. She looked at me in surprise.
Back to school, of course.
Yes, only for me leaving this place is kind of like crossing a barrier, a frontier, the end of something and the beginning of something else. A week ago it was terribly hard for me to realize that I'd been pulled out of my usual world and brought to God knows where. But then I got used to it. And here we go again. Basically, the only difference is that now I face not a sense of fear and horror, but a blunt, sinking feeling of uncertainty.
And you?
Well, I'll find something to do.
Something?
She burst into peals of laughter.
Yeah.
What's the matter?
You should have gone to a circus school to be a clown.
Why?
One can't help laughing when looking at you.
But why?
You always act like some kind of a martyr, and you messiah for all the Russians.
Well, there was quite a bit of truth in her words. I have my reasons. I mumbled and turned to face the window.
What reasons?
Various. Why are you so curious?
Have you forgotten that I'm a child?
She grinned archly. Well, half an hour with you is like a terrible torture for me.
Look who's talking. Just one really nasty tempered person.
What makes you think so?
You're always deep in soul searching, trying to find out something, analyzing everyone around you.
I gave Uliana an amazed look. I would never have expected such a little girl to be capable of such mature judgment. And?
That's it.
At the very least, I know how to behave myself, and I don't end up grounded.
It's a matter of chance.
She grinned. Yeah, sure.
Last night...
She stopped short. Last night, what?
Nothing.
No, finish what you started. She just opened her mouth when steps were heard behind the door, and a second later Olga Dmitrievna entered the room.
Ah, there you are.
That's even better. She seemed confused and lost for words. Well, I reconsidered this morning's incident. It's not like it became much clearer, but doesn't look like a big deal. So, Uliana, you're officially not grounded anymore. If only you did that right from the start, I muttered. Did you say something? No, nothing. Departure is coming. Time to pack your stuff. saying that she left the cabin.
Now you see how it all turned out.
Yeah. I sighed. Are you going to pack?
Yeah, I guess so. And you?
Yeah, I'm going to pack my stuff too. She didn't reply, so I left the cabin. Well, it looks like my last mission in this camp is complete. Uliana's sentence was overturned, after all. The only thing left for me is to leave this place and get ready for something new. I swept my eyes around the room as I entered the camp leader's cabin. Do I have anything to pack anyway? I stuffed my winter clothes into a bag and took a seat on the bed. I was haunted by an agonizing feeling of incompleteness. Either deja vu or a feeling that I forgot something, but still can't remember what it was exactly. When all is said and done, I haven't managed to find any answers here, and now I'll have to continue my quest elsewhere. Does it really matter how and why I came here if it's not possible to escape? And it seems that nothing's up to me anyway. Everything seemed simpler before. Sure, I had no major prospects. My perspectives were hardly mind-blowing, but at least everything was pretty much clear. Yet the week I've spent here raised more issues than my whole previous life. The clock struck 5 o'clock. I took the bag and walked quickly to the bus stop, worried they might leave without me. It appeared that the bus was already waiting there, as were all the pioneers.
Everyone's here?
Began Olga Dmitrievna.
You're leaving our camp today, and I'd like to tell you something in parting.
She was visibly nervous and desperately lost for words.
I hope that you'll remember the time you spent here for a lifetime, and that you'll retain only pleasant memories about Sovyonok. I also hope that you became at least a little bit better, managed to learn something, and found new friends. Just come back next year.
The camp leader turned around. It seemed that she was trying to hold back her tears. I didn't expect her to get so emotional. Although her speech sounded like complete nonsense, as usual. The pioneers slowly started to get on the bus. I ran an eye over the crowd looking for Uliana.
Where is Uliana?
She won't be going, the leader answered shortly.
How? Why?
She's grounded.
But you said...
She's at it again.
What do you mean?
Hey, get inside or they'll leave without you. Indeed, I was the last man standing outside.
Wait a second.
Move it! She nudged me onto the bus. I decided not to argue. Here at the end, I can't be held responsible for her forever. Here we go again. If she's going to be so stubborn, then it's up to her to face the consequences. I took the last seat. There was no partner for me, which I was fine with at that moment. However, soon enough, Elisa moved to sit next to me.
Where's Uliana?
Stayed.
Why?
Grounded. I gave one-word replies, showing no interest in conversation.
Why?
Don't know.
And what? You haven't even tried to find out?
Is it worth staying back for?
You should.
For what? If you want, you can stay. We haven't gone far.
Yeah.
She said calmly and went off to her place. Slavia and Xenia were sitting in front seats and talking with enthusiasm about something. Lena, Miku, Shirik, and Electronic were sitting closer to me and playing cards. Elisa and some other girl were looking through a magazine. Probably I was the only one who had nothing much to do. I caught myself thinking that I still felt a bit guilty about what happened to Uliana. But what could I do? If I stayed together with her, I would have probably missed my only chance to leave. And in my position, playing such games could prove fatal. And apart from that, enough is enough. Yet still I couldn't stop thinking about her. That I'm at fault. That I've acted cowardly. Done a bad thing. That anyone in my shoes would have. But why? Anyway, who is she to me that I need to take risk for her sake? It was even harder to answer this question. During the week I spent here, I got to know her and others quite well. In the end, I felt responsible for Uliana in some way. But what's the point of thinking about it now? I'm leaving this pioneer camp. I'm heading into the unknown. Starting from this moment, I have to make all my decisions based on the assumption that this world is alien to me and most probably hostile. And I have no one to rely on. Although thinking about it, such state of affairs isn't too new for me. I was always alone in the past. Sovyonok has been left far behind me. Night has fallen on this strange world. It was so dark that it seemed the bus was floating across a bluish black ocean. And only sometimes would gloomy forests and fields reaching into the horizon rise like waves from its surface. Anyway, the surroundings were the least of my concerns now. I was knee-deep in my reflection. It feels to me like I've left some unfinished business back at the camp. Even though I can't go back there now. Bad things, good things, everything will be forgotten soon, leaving only the fact of my appearance here, the end of my old life, the beginning of a new one. Practically speaking, it's nothing fancy. Just an 80s pioneer camp that I was beamed to from my own time. In any case, I'd rather worry about what's waiting for me at that town we're heading for. After all, I've got nowhere to return to. I have no home, no money, no friends, relatives. All these pioneers that I'll part ways with in a few hours, I won't see any of them ever again. And them? I don't think that they will remember me in a couple of years. It's not a big deal for them. To them, I'm not the time traveler but a common boy. Their peer. The road seemed endless. Most of the pioneers were long asleep, yet I was still fighting the urge to take a nap. It's always better to enter the unknown while remaining awake, though the unknown always has an edge in this battle,
flow of time that it is able to control as it sees fit. You wait a minute, an hour, but nothing happens. Your nerves, already strung out to their limits, finally surrender to the stress. You just fall asleep.
It felt like I hadn't slept at all. It happens all the time. You just close your eyes and fall asleep. The hour hand makes several turns. The morning comes and you wake up and it feels like you just blinked. I yawned so wide that I almost broke my jaw and jumped up because of the pain. Something was wrong. Though, not something, everything was wrong. I was back in my apartment. But how can that be possible? I began to panic and started to run around my room in the hope of calming myself down. Physical tiredness can often overcome an emotional one. My head was empty. Fear and terror took over my whole being, and some kind of a song was floating in my mind. Maybe a prayer, or maybe just an incoherent jumble of thoughts designed, if not to calm me down, and at least to distract me from my panic. It was about half an hour before I collapsed on the floor, exhausted, and fixed my eyes on the ceiling. It seems like I had not gone anywhere. The old chandelier looked down at me unkindly with its dusty lamps. The cracks in the plaster were in the same places, and the unstuck wallpaper hadn't slipped down even a little. Was it really a dream? But it can't be. It just can't be. I spent an entire week in that pioneer camp. I was definitely there. I remember everything perfectly, from my awakening aboard the bus right up to the departure. Neither dreams nor hallucinations can be that real. Somehow I stood up, went to the kitchen, filled a glass with water, and returned to the room. The blood was still hammering in my temples, but at least the terror of the first few minutes was gone. Or I'd just taken a break. I concentrated on the last thing I remembered. It was the departure from the camp. The night, the bus bouncing over the bumps, the dirty, murky glass beyond which almost nothing was visible, and the pioneers. I'd been absolutely positive that I would never return, or just didn't think about it. Anyway, I was prepared for our arrival at the district center in a few hours and was already considering options for my further actions. Or not? Damn it! I roared and pulled on my hair with all my strength. I can't remember! The last hours in that world merged into a monotonous mirage, as if a drunken Renard was completing his painting with a roller instead of a brush. But it's not that bad. Wait a minute, why would it be bad? On the contrary, everything's fine. I would even say perfect. I've broken free from that damn world and returned home. The most important thing now is not to end up there again. It might happen. Surely it could. But it might not happen as well. Indeed. I have nothing to worry about now. Everything will be fine. Obviously, I was just seeing things. Exactly. I was seeing things. It doesn't matter that everything felt that real. Something like that just can't happen. It can't. I claim with all due confidence that it just can't. Modern science claims it's impossible. Not allowed. I laughed loudly. An inner voice tried to stop the verbal diarrhea spouting from my mouth, but it didn't succeed. It feels like my speech and thoughts are separating to exist on their own, independent from each other. My brain prompted me to calm down and try to analyze the situation, while my tongue simply tried to ease the stress by throwing new meaningless words out into the air. Finally, I was somehow able to pull myself together. I pulled the curtains open and looked out the window. The night city looked exactly the same as it did a week ago. The view brought my mind back to reality, at least to some extent. After all, if everything is now normal and nothing suspicious or supernatural is happening, then wasn't it just a dream? Essentially, there are only two options now. I can agree that it was just a dream and calm down, or I can trust my own feelings and accept that the camp, the bus, and the pioneers were real. Either way, whatever I choose, I won't get any answers. It's funny, I was looking for these answers for a whole week, or at least pretending to, and found nothing. But I broke free from that weird world anyway. And what now? The enigma remains, and additional questions have surfaced. In the end, I was exhausted and fell onto the bed. In a few seconds, I was snoring blissfully. Much time has passed from the moment I came back from Sovyonok. A lot has changed in my life. The first week I was racking my brains trying to summarize in detail everything that had happened. Creating graphs and diagrams. Writing to forums discussing paranormal phenomena. I even planned to visit a psychic. In the end, it resulted in nothing, just as one would expect. It's no wonder. I was just a human being, but these events obviously were the affair of a supreme mind. If a caveman found himself in the early 21st century, even he would understand more than me. Well, at first he would think that a cell phone that transmits someone's speech dozens kilometers away by the will of God is a miracle. But one can get used to it. Maybe if he completed secondary and higher technical education, he would even be able to understand how mobile communications work. It's a basic, exaggerated example, just as unreal as everything I experienced. I'm unlikely to ever understand how it worked or who was behind it, and I doubt that I could get used to it if it were to happen again. But one question troubled me ever since. Why? Why me? What did I not do to deserve this bad or good luck? Sure, in sci-fi novels, wonders often occur to quite ordinary people, but that was just a matter of chance. But I was absolutely positive that these events have occurred for some reason. Just like a random sci-fi hero who traveled 1,000 years forward in time, leaving him in the wrong time and place. But in the future, no one knew him. Everyone thought that he was just a madman. But in my situation, they were expecting me at the camp. At least the camp leader was. How should I respond to that? Maybe I was picked out at random to be studied later on. Even so, the question why not only still stands, but rather becomes even more important. After not finding any sufficient explanation, I returned to my usual existence. But now I wasn't just sitting at the computer 24/7, wiping the F5 button free of dust. New interests came into my life. But what they were, I couldn't tell myself. And suddenly I wanted to get a high education. Not to find a job, and not because it's necessary. Just because I remembered how much fun I'd had during the first year of education. Chatting with course mates, days of lighthearted youthful fun, plenty of the energy that I'd lacked so much over the last few years. A truly great man once said, "Any man who reads too much and uses his own brain too little falls into lazy habits of thinking." It's hard to argue with that logic. An ordinary man will not sit around because he is lazy, but because a given subject is just of no interest to him. For instance, I'm not interested in knitting. So does it mean that I'm a slacker if I don't make a couple of woolen sweaters per month? But feeling too lazy to open a book? Well, that's something I can understand. Although I like reading, when I start thinking that I have to get through a huge novel, page by page, and even if it is interesting, even if it absorbs me so completely that I can't turn away, well, that part will only come later. For now, all I need is to get a book from a shelf and open it, but I feel too lazy. I don't know what exactly influenced me, but about a half of my time, instead of the 5 to 10% of it from before, I was occupied with something useful. I read, wrote, studied something new, and engaged in sports. At least, I exercised in the morning. Sometimes I thought that it was the influence of the camp. One can't rule out that possibility. For all 7 days there I was participating in social activities, verbal communication with others in amounts that before would have caused terror and severe introversion in me. On the other hand, it's not so easy to change one's personality in a single week. Especially for someone as stubborn as me. But it is easy to point them in a new direction. Show them a guiding line. However, I'd never believed that it would be possible with me. Anyway, I enjoyed these changes so much that I tried not to think about their causes. What the hell? Nobody would worry about the why if he managed to hit the jackpot by betting his last pair of trousers. In summer, I re-enrolled at university, and studies started in autumn. Time passed. I eagerly attended lectures and seminars, and studied for tests and examinations with a level of enthusiasm that I wouldn't have expected from myself. I managed to become a part of the group with surprising ease. Although I was older than most students, it didn't trouble me. Maybe it's because of my natural immaturity or changes in my personality. I didn't know for sure. Most likely the answer is somewhere in the middle. The joy of communicating with people, lost many years ago, returned. It was easy to get along with others. Their problems didn't seem so distant and trivial to me. Normal life, which before I had considered just a gray, depressing mass, started to shine with new colors. Sometimes, it seemed to me that I turned into a doll, became one of a billion identical tin soldiers standing in straight rows on a shelf in a toy shop. But in this shop, apart from the glowing showcase that sparkled with fancy writing describing new season's offers and Christmas discounts, was a storage, where all the defective products were thrown. A teddy bear without a paw, a firefighter's truck in need of a mechanic, a transformer who looked more like a microwave than a mighty robot, jigsaw puzzles which assembled into trippy postmodernist pictures. My place used to be among these broken toys. And while some of them could take refuge in charity drives or an orphanage, my only fate was being dumped and recycled again. So I couldn't help enjoying such changes in my life. was the last lesson of the hardest subject this term. Most students didn't like it, because of its difficulty and the hard to understand teacher, I suppose. But I found a kind of pleasure in dealing with tables, graphs, and diagrams. Counting the figures by pieces, I arranged them in columns and lines in the right order, summing up, subtracting, dividing and multiplying, and using them to get a precise picture of any event. No number could avoid my attentive gaze. All of them would be captured, calculated, analyzed. Each of them would get an index number and a place in their proper cell. After its arrival, every digit will be assigned a bunk, work uniform, and off-duty clothes, and will be sent to perform its designated task. Some will be digging a trench from 9 to 5, some will march off to face the trends, and some will be trying to hit a linear regression on the shooting range. What are you thinking about? Reluctantly, I stopped writing and gazed at my classmate. Taking notes on the lecture, as you can see. Well, just screw it. Just read the workbook afterwards. I'll read the workbook as well. I'm always astonished by you. Oh, what's so astonishing? You're planning to gain a first-class diploma, aren't you? Never thought of it. Don't tell me you really find it interesting. I remember that just a moment ago I imagined myself emblazoned on a banner borne aloft by a regiment of digits and couldn't help smiling. You won't even need all this stuff. Everything will be needed. At least for general development. The classmate grinned sarcastically. I bet you never read even a single book in your whole life. So what? He asked challengingly. Just stating a fact. And you are always somewhere up in the clouds. He was right about that. Although I'd regained part of my lost social skills, I often slipped out of touch with reality, dreaming of something else. You say it like it's a bad thing. And there's nothing wrong with not reading books either. Human beings can't have only material needs, I said philosophically, mocking him. Oh, you're such a downer. Yawn. The lecture was approaching its end and I began to plan out the rest of the day. Need to buy some groceries and later finish a project and send it to the client. Then I got to write down notes. And then in the evening, I can just read or watch something. Unless someone phones or writes to me. There are no urgent matters, so I can spare some time for my mates. Oh, 5 whole minutes to go. I looked at my phone and realized that it is exactly a year after I returned from the Sovyonok pioneer camp. My soul felt warmer from such thoughts, and I smiled blissfully. It's not often anymore that I recall those events. Obviously, one can't just forget something like that. Those moments of something bizarre and extraordinary that are engraved in my memory forever. Normally, even the happiest moments fade and just reminiscence of them remain. Nothing more. But the week spent in Sovyonok was different. I remembered everything in perfect detail. The terror of the first minutes after waking up in the bus. The first day, hard, full of surprises and amazing acquaintances. Cheerful and carefree pranks with Uliana. Just take that trick with the ghost, for instance. The best Soviet comedians would envy it. And the pioneers had such expressions. They were dying laughing. It sure would be nice to meet Uliana in real life. Well, she is not always perfect, She's hyperactive and she doesn't have any idea about good manners, but one doesn't meet such a sincere, carelessly cheerful and energetic person very often. Maybe she gave some of that energy to me. It makes the fact that she had to stay behind even sadder. Of course, it's just a dream. A figment of my imagination. Although you can still worry about book and film characters. One laughs and cries with them and feels their pain. Same thing for me. It seems that if I had acted differently, the story would have had an even more joyful, happy end. However, I'm sure that Uliana is happy in that world. I just can't imagine her being upset for longer than 5 minutes. Her optimism will help her to find a way, even in the most difficult situations. I wonder what she will look like when she grows up. The bell rang. My classmates stood up and looked at me keenly. Okay, see ya. Could I crib notes from you later? If you had been writing down your own during the lecture, you wouldn't need any. So can I? Yeah, okay, fine. Cheers. He smiled and left the lecture hall. Slowly I packed all my exercise books and textbooks into my backpack and looked around the empty hall. For a moment I could almost smell the knowledge in the air, like sea salt in the air on the deck of a ship. Thousands and thousands of students came here to study, to learn something new or to forget something they used to know. Some slept through the lectures, some wrote them down attentively, just like me, but nobody was completely indifferent. Those who didn't care stayed home, pulled the curtains across the windows and fixed their eyes on a monitor. I sighed reluctantly and left the lecture hall with the firm intention of not wasting this day. Are you going to pack?
Yeah, I guess so. You?
It's not like I've got much to pack. Indeed, it was the truth.
Care to help me then?
Okay, sure. Why not? She started to pull her clothes out of the cabinets and stack them on her bed. Watch it, you'll mess up everything.
It's okay. I washed them at home.
T-shirts, skirts, shorts, dresses, shoes, trainers, underwear, the pile of clothes was growing and growing. You really brought all this stuff here all on your own? Considering Uliana's constitution, it was hard to believe.
Yes, of course.
She laughed.
Come on, give me a hand.
We've started to pack up the clothes into a big bag. I tried to pack things carefully at first, but after realizing that it's pointless, resorted to just stuffing everything in to make it all fit. At last, there were no more clothes on the bed, and we even somehow managed to zip up the bag.
So that's it?
Yeah. I looked at the clock. It was about 40 minutes till the departure time.
You know, it was fun.
Meaning?
Well, the last week was fun.
Yeah. I said absent-mindedly.
Don't you think so?
Why?
Sounded sort of insincere to me.
Well, I must admit that I'm not exactly walking on air. Yeah?
But what didn't you like?
It's not like I can spit out everything at once. You see, a few moments were, how can I put it, a little unexpected.
You're so boring,
said Uliana and turned away from me. Well, what did you expect from me?
Sounds like you've got absolutely nothing to remember later.
Yeah, there sure is plenty to remember, I gleamed.
Yep, that's what I'm saying.
She looked closely at me. That made me a bit uncomfortable. What now?
And me? Will you remember me?
Sure I will. Everyone.
Everyone?
And you most of all. I saluted, springing up to attention with my hand over my heart.
That's better.
However, do I really have something to remember about her? Yeah, we had a lot of adventures, but who is Uliana for me? Just a nosy kid from another reality. On second thoughts, do I really care that much about my situation now? From the very first moment I appeared here, everything changed tremendously. So right now I was just curious what's going to happen next. Sure, the unknown is not the most pleasant perspective, but I must admit that it's a breathtaking one. Whether I will return to my world or not is not up to me anymore. It means that I don't really have any choice. I have to adapt to the local living conditions. And one of these conditions was sitting right in front of me, smiling broadly. You know, you're not as silly as I first thought.
Why'd you think I'm silly in the first place?
She said in an offended tone. Just kidding.
You and your jokes.
Alright, it's time.
Let's go.
Uliana said happily and pointed at the bag. Yeah. I shouldered her belongings. The weight almost made me bend in half. I was thankful for the fact that the bus stop was just a few hundred meters away. I shoved her stuff onto the bus and then hurried to get my own humble luggage. After some time, all the pioneers were here. Soon enough, everyone boarded the bus. I took the last seat, next to Uliana. The first row was taken by Slavia and Xenia. Then a little closer to us, Lena, Miku, Electronic and Shurik were playing cards. Elisa slouched in her seat alone 2 rows from us. There was no partner for her. Turned out a bit embarrassing for your neighbor.
It's fine. You helped me to get ready and brought my stuff here.
I looked at her closely. It seems this little demon had changed her attitude towards me in a radical way. Could it be that I'm a friend to her? An odd word that seemed to have lost its meaning for me ages ago. I can't recall any of my acquaintances, when I still had them, who I could call friends. Maybe even back when I was at school. And now someone considers me a friend. Anyway, what does it all mean to me? I always felt more comfortable thinking about abstract stuff, distant perspectives, and global matters than of simple, ordinary issues. And indeed, during all the time I've spent in this camp, I've managed to become close friends with Uliana. She awakened these long-forgotten feelings in me. Because this is what it means to be buddies or friends. I smiled and tousled her hair gently.
And what's that for?
She puffed her lips. Just because.
Pervert. Will you marry me when I grow up?
Sure.
I'll hold you to that.
Okay.
Let's go join them at cards.
Why not? We gathered around the suitcase that was being used as a table. Soon Elisa joined us. I was laughing a lot, cracking jokes, and just enjoying being in a state one usually calls happiness. A simple happiness, here and now. Right now, This bunch of pioneers that I've managed to befriend in this short week were a million times more important to me than finding out how I came to this world and how to get out of here. In the end, should I even bother trying to get back? It was getting dark. The game was long over, and the pioneers had returned to their seats. I had no idea how long it would take to get to the district center, but it seemed like an eternity. From beyond the bus windows, only pitch darkness was looking back at me, almost consuming the entire world, compressing to only the size of the Icarus cabin. Anyway, the surroundings were the least of my concerns now. I was enjoying the moment. It seems that this reality is completely normal. And does it really matter how I got here if things turn out this great? I became another person and met new friends.
What are you thinking about?
About life.
How's it going?
Just awesome. Uliana laughed quietly. I don't have a place to return to, so I can choose any life path I want. Yes, we will part ways soon and I will probably never see most of them again, but we will stay friends forever. A pleasant warmth flooded through my body. I felt like a kid again. Uliana put her head on my shoulder and quickly fell asleep. Sometimes you may feel tired not only because of hard work or sad feelings, but also because of fun, joy, and happiness. You may probably even want to continue but have no energy to, with your soul demanding time to rest and your body asking for calm. I fell asleep with a smile on my face. The bell rang. My classmate stood up, said his goodbyes, and left. I started packing my exercise books and textbooks into my backpack when I suddenly heard someone's voice in front of me.
Excuse me, is this the 34th lecture hall?
There's a sign on the door.
No, there's not.
Girl's voice sounded offended. Someone must have removed it.
So is it the 34th?
Yeah. At last I closed the backpack and raised my head, intending to stand up. Whoa! Girl, look at you! That hair is awesome. The girl looked terribly familiar. Haven't we?
Yes, thought the same.
She looked very surprised. But I don't remember where I could have met you.
Neither do I.
What year are you in?
First year.
Oh, still pretty much green. The girl smiled.
Everything is still ahead of me.
As if I'm already past everything.
What about you?
Fourth.
So, is it difficult to study?
For the first year it is.
I knew it,
she said in an upset manner. But it gets easier with time. It's always easier when you get used to it.
Sometimes I'm too lazy to do things.
Yeah, that also happens.
Do you still have any stuff from the first year? If you share it, it'll be easier for me to prepare for examinations.
Obviously I had nothing. My first year was finished a long time ago. But I suddenly felt a strong desire to ask for her phone number, so I lied. Well, yeah, maybe. But I'll have to check.
It's great.
We exchanged our telephone numbers. My name is Semyon. What should I call you?
Uliana.
Then I realized who this girl reminded me of.
Exactly. She's Uliana, just around 5 years older.
For a moment I was lost for words.
What? It's an ordinary name. That was Lennon's name, she said, pouting.
No, just... Have you ever been to a pioneer camp?
When I was a kid. Why are you asking?
In the blink of an eye, all the events that happened in Sovyonok flashed in front of my eyes. So it wasn't a dream.
Although, they were just summer camps, not pioneer ones.
Uliana added. So you weren't wearing a uniform?
The one with a red neckerchief? Of course not. Fashion police alert.
She laughed loudly.
But why are you asking?
I was about to tell her everything, but then I realized that she would just consider me a psycho. After all, this girl was much older than the Uliana I remembered. Maybe she just looks like her. I had a dream, and I think I saw you there. A kind of deja vu.
Deja... what?
It's when one sees something for the first time but believes that he has seen it before.
Well, now that you mention it...
Her face became serious.
I think I've seen you somewhere as well. Definitely. Maybe it's that thing you just said.
An interesting coincidence, don't you think?
I don't know. Anyway, I'll give you a call. See ya.
She laughed and ran out of the room. Appearance, behavior, way of talking. She's definitely that exact Uliana. So does that mean the dream is coming true? I can't help but enjoy it. And above all, I'll see this forever cheerful girl again for sure.